It's nice that they care.
Yes. And hopefully they'll follow it up with donations.
I don't know what he does. I never asked.
This is Mark, the younger one.
Yes.
Yeah. God, now let me think.
Friday morning, I'm sorry, Friday morning.
He's kind of got a head of hair like Cool. I don't know how to put that politically correct, so I just said it.
We'll see what they've got to say.
Sorry.
One of those not having to worry about what my grandma.
Oh, Lord.
Is that something you need?
No.
Okay, just give me a list or whatever.
Is that for us to take?
Because I just would like at least maybe 2 people.
Is that for us to
That's
take?
the available to sit down and talk to them. Kind of explain the situation a little bit.
Where is Southwest Great Divide?
It's in your.
Yeah.
The
Well,
one
the
that Diane
Southwest,
just passed out.
Southwest Great Divide is the name of the place. It's located in Craig.
Keeping their water.
Union is right over.
Diane would be able to answer that one.
But the last.
Hey, Diane, what is Southwest Great Divide? Give me a couple more names.
Oh, at the caboose.
It's at the caboose. Yeah.
That's who does like.
If you go right down.
Yeah,
this
Jesse. Yep.
Union is.
That's probably what it is,
That one at the
yeah.
end. It's either they're right there or it's 2 down.
Wait,
I
I don't have presentations.
All right.
Hi, Bear.
Hi, Pear.
I'm not saying
Hi,
hi.
Pear.
What do you write about you in the paper? I don't
Hi, Jeff.
You say hi to me, you're not going to be in the paper.
See?
see.
Oh, hi, Pear. Hi, Pear. Hi, Pear.
It's too late for you.
I'm not saying hi. I'll just get in trouble anyhow.
Bruce is gone. Yep.
Yep.
That's still gone.
Says my iPad is
Here with
not.
all my favorite people. Yeah, how are
Okay,
you?
Shane.
Those
Shane.
are like, really quiet. It must be serious.
I said he'd say that.
That's perfect.
I'm having a little trouble connecting to the internet on the iPad. Can you just like
It says I'm not connected, but when I go to my
I hate
settings,
to say it, but
why is my
chalkboard was right
screen
there.
Tracy?
The chair was right
I
behind
think
me.
who's doing the same.
Up against the chalkboard.
our Wi-Fi here isn't very good. I know I've been saying this for like a year and saying we need to fix that, and then now I'm done. But
Will it help when Vast installs this stuff?
What's that?
Will it help when Vast installs the stuff for downtown?
I think it's us. I think it's the firewall that Computers and Beyond put on it. It slows it down, but
That would do it too.
I mean, my cell phone data is quicker than the Wi-Fi. I usually shut the Wi-Fi off when I'm in here because
Well, hold it high so I can see it.
Just to say.
Day is moving. Oh, we gotta wait for him.
You can still come over and sit by me, George.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Jerry will give it to you. You find that stuff right
Right,
away.
Jerry?
Who's having the same?
did you have to disconnect and reconnect? Did that work? Jerry is good.
You ready? Everybody
It's just
ready?
slow.
Okay, we'll call to order the city council meeting for Monday, January 10th. Stand and do the pledge of allegiance. I know we have a couple changes to the agenda.
Couple of small changes. You need to strike employee to quarter because that person can't be here tonight. And so we'll do that at a future time. And then we have an addition on a gambling license, which is Resolution 2022-11, which would be number 11 on new business. And you have a new agenda in front of you.
Okay, with those changes, do we have approval of the agenda?
I'll make,
Mayor, I'd like to add one item to the agenda. Yeah, I'd like to discuss the possibility of setting up another community center work group meeting to discuss how planning is coming along.
Okay.
You can put that under Mayor, Council, and Communication if you want.
And then I have something for Mayor, Council, and Communication also, so we'll do that then. Okay, and you,
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with additions and deletion.
I'll second that.
first and second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there somebody here from the public that would like to talk about something that is not on the agenda? Shirley?
Hi, I'm Shirley Anderson. I live out at 701 Randall Street, Tracy, Minnesota. And I would like to comment on a grant that was available from the state of Minnesota. The total funds for this grant for distribution, when it came out, was $18 million. We would have qualified for this grant being in a socioeconomic distressed area and being rural. Also, we do not have a community center in our town. There are many towns around in our area, some with less population than we have, and most of them either have a community center or a senior center. I know someone who has 30 years of grant writing experience, and this person said we definitely would have qualified for this grant. This person said the grant application and verbiage and wording would have been very important, along with the opportunity for classes and helping others in our community. This would have made us directly eligible for this grant under guidelines number 2. By providing increasing and/or expanding access to education for citizens in our community, we could have qualified for this. At various times in the past, the Multipurpose Center has had classes pertaining to free income tax preparation, applying for veterans benefits. We've had several school-age clubs meetings at the Multipurpose Center, such as 4-H, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. We also have had several classes and appointments for various activities, even from the hospital, blood pressure checks, foot clinics, bone builders, nutrition and diabetes classes. We could have arranged for second English as a second language for people in our community, and even GED classes. It would have taken some input from others, but we could have applied for this grant, and there would have been a very good chance for us to have received a building built totally free with no matching funds and furnished. But this opportunity was not even presented nor mentioned to the City Council nor the work group committee for exploration. It was determined by someone that our city would not have met the guidelines. This grant notification was first released on Friday, October 22nd, 2021. They did extend it in the middle of December to have been turned in on January 7th, 2022. We do have some people who know other people who have expertise in this kind of grant writing, and this could have been accomplished, given we would have had 2.5 months to complete this project. But when you aren't even informed of this kind of opportunity, how do you proceed? We are supposed to be a community working together for the good of everyone, but I don't feel this is happening in our city right now. How do we proceed so this doesn't happen again? It's too late for this grant. This could have been a great asset for our community.
Shirley, you have to look this up real quick. You're out of time here.
Okay. Anyway, we heard from this grant on December 28th from a person who lives in another city. And the grant for each application, the top would have been $1.5 million that we could have applied for.
I just go up there? First of all, I want everyone to understand that we as a work group.
Janine, sorry. Can you put that towards you?
I'm so short. Can I just hold it?
You can just hold it. You bet.
Okay.
You got to sing into it if you hold it.
Janine, say who you are.
You wouldn't want me to sing. First of all, I want everyone to understand that we as a work group for the community center want you as our city council to understand that we supported Ken for inquiring about the capital grant. He went to talk to Val merely to discuss that we had been informed of the grant by people from another town in our area, and that there was a very good possibility Tracy would be eligible. It was then that he was informed that Eric and Jeff had known about this grant since October and had not said anything to our group or the council because they felt Tracy would not qualify, and we did not have a plan. Our group was very disappointed that no one discussed that information with us. Do I feel that Tracy qualified? I read through the grant and attended a webinar explaining the capital grant, and based on our loan net capacity per capita alone, we would have met a waiver that would have required no matching funds whatsoever. No other funding information would have been required. Just so you know, Tracy's net capacity per capita is 322, lower than Lamberton, Walnut Grove, Milroy, Ballatin, Slayton, Curry, Tyler, Lake Benton, Sleepy Eye, and Minneota, all which would have qualified for this grant. Garvin at 267 is the only town in our area with a number lower than ours. We would have had programs in place to help the economically disadvantaged, such as our LSS food program, tax education, help for the elderly, exercise program, etc., things that were lost when the old multi-purpose center was closed. These could have been worked on before January 7th deadline was met. Do I think this disappointment should deter us from our goal to build a community center? Absolutely not. Our appointed work group and this city council share this goal together. This shared purpose can help bring the people of Tracy together and make us even stronger. Let's get this done, people. Please, let's get to it and get it done. Thank you.
Anybody else want to talk about something that is not on the agenda?
Well, I have a question on that, I guess. If this come out on October or whatever you said, let's hear from the people that didn't think we qualified so we can understand it more, why they thought we didn't qualify or pursue it. I guess,
You're asking me, George?
well, or Jeff, or whoever made the decision, because they're saying one thing and I'd like to hear
talk
the other
about it.
side of the story.
I'd be happy to talk about it. I mean, as the council knows, I sent a memo to the email to the council, I don't know, a week ago or so, something like that.
Speak up, please.
Yeah, usually that's not what people ask me. But yes, as the council knows, I sent a memo to you, I don't know, a week or so ago about the process that we went through in terms of evaluating this grant. We get lots of grants that come across our desk, and we have a limited amount of resources to apply for grants. And so when we look at them and evaluate them, we want to assure, first of all, that we think we can have a decent chance of getting it, because you can't guarantee that. And second of all, we want to make sure that we have a match associated with it. So in early November or so, Jeff came to me and Val and said, hey, I heard about this grant, and what do you think about it? So we started looking at it in more detail. And there's several things that the citizens said are correct. Yes, it is a grant for capital projects. That's accurate. It's also accurate that there are requirements for your community being disadvantaged, and the city of Tracy certainly would be more low income than a lot of places. But they don't give grants to you just because you're poor. You actually have to meet the terms of what the grant is asking for specifically. And there are 3 criteria specifically that it's looking at. One is economic development. I'm going to read it directly from here, just so you say what you know exactly what it is.
You only had to meet one.
One is economic development, including but not limited to programs to relieve economic disparities or foster entrepreneurship or small business development. That's really about helping people start businesses, grow businesses, things like that. In particular, what the federal government is often looking for is for minority communities, women-owned businesses, things like that. That's commonly the kind of thing that their application that they're looking for in this case. The city of Pipestone, for example, is putting together an application for this, and they specifically included a business incubator for disadvantaged Native American communities in the city of Pipestone. And that makes a certain amount of sense. We don't have any programs like that here. The second one is education, including but not limited to programs focused on STEM. That's science, technology, engineering, and math education, or culturally specific curriculum. With all due respect to the citizens, bone builders, tax preparation, it's not STEM. I mean, what the federal government is looking for is educational programs related to technical training and things like that. I mean, that's ultimately the kinds of things that they're looking for. The third one is workforce development, including but not limited to apprenticeships, internships, employment preparation, job placement assistance, and job skills training and counseling and legal assistance to marginalized communities. So there's nothing in a community center we've ever talked about as related to training for, apprenticeships or internships or anything like that. So when we looked at this and we thought, gosh, this would be a great grant to get, but we literally don't have any of these programs, none of them. Nor have they ever been programs that we have talked about being in a potential community center. The survey that we did a year ago, we asked the citizens what do they want in a community center. And the top things that they said were a place to socialize, a place to eat meals, play games, cards, and to have community meetings. Those were the top four. And every discussion that we've had, whether it would be this group or previous groups, focus groups, you name it, that's generally been the discussion about what we want out of a community center. Not any of these things on the list. So when we think about a community center in terms of those items, this doesn't make any sense. One of the other things that we did more recently is that there had been some discussion about, well, Pipestone is putting in an application. Well, why can't we put in an application? So we looked at Pipestone. I was curious about it. So Jeff reached out to them, and he said that Pipestone is putting together an application for this. As far as we know, they submitted one. It did include a room for seniors to meet. It also included an incubator for entrepreneurship for disadvantaged communities. It included space for their food shelf and some other things. And so in reality, the project is much different than the kind of thing that we're talking about here. And that leads me to kind of the second point, because Pipestone's application includes architecturally engineered drawings. You as a city council have not even decided what a community center would look like. How big is it? Where is it? What are we going to be doing in it? Does it have a kitchen? Does it not have a kitchen? Is it 1,500 square feet? Is it 3,000 square feet? Who's going to be in charge of it? There's a whole host of questions, that haven't been determined. How much is it going to cost? This grant requires a detailed narrative on the project costs. I don't know how we put together an application for something we don't even know what it is. It has to include a project design, which Pipestones did. And with all due respect to what we received, a hand-drawn floor plan is not an architectural design. It also includes operating costs. It has to include a narrative on 5-year operating costs. What does it cost to operate this thing? Again, I don't know how we answer that question unless we know how big it is and what it is. So I do appreciate the disappointment that people have when they look at something like this and say, geez, why could we not do something like this? Why wouldn't we be doing something like this? I promise you, we would love to write a grant, for something like this. We really, really would. But we also don't want to put a bunch of false hope out there for people when the chance of success of something like this is basically zero. My observation, as well as my recommendation to the City Council, is always going to be, you have made a decision that you want to work with the citizens through the Community Center Work Group on this issue. And I think that's what you should do. And I think you need to come to some consensus about, what this is exactly. Put some parameters on it. How big is it? Where is it? What is it going to be? Things like that. Your direction previously has been, well, if you want it, you're going to have to raise the money for it. And ultimately, it is hard to determine the answer to that question, how much does it cost, without knowing what it is. And so I think it's worth a discussion with those folks. But it puts us in a really difficult spot, when we get approached by, folks asking about this, and there's no way we can put together a quality application for something that we don't even qualify for in the first place. I don't want to waste your time by bringing you things that are irrelevant. I don't want to waste the citizens' taxpayers' time in terms of the staff effort that it takes to put together grants like this, which is many, many hours to do this right. And we have a grant writer for 8 hours a week, which is more than we had a year ago, but it's not a lot of time. So that's a long-winded way of saying that I wish we could apply, for this grant. It just really, in the context of what's happening with this, the information that we have, it just doesn't make any sense. And that's why we didn't bring it forward, because there's a lot of things we don't bring forward to you that we evaluate. That's why you hire professional staff in the first place. And so I appreciate you asking the question, council member, because I think it's a good one. But that was the rationale. Ultimately, Val and Val's just the grant writer, first of all. She's basically just, to do the work. But, Jeff and I had a discussion along with Val, and, this is our professional judgment in this case.
I have a question. Shouldn't it have been brought before the...
Susie, you want to come up to the podium, please?
I didn't know I had to. Yep. I have a question. Why, even if you think it's not something that's doable, why isn't it brought before the council to begin with and to the planning commission? Or are you called, I'm on the planning commission.
Work committee.
Okay. And you did mention, I had two questions, I'm sorry. You mentioned in the grant there was an American Indian, I can't think of what you called it. It
Native
was
American.
Native American.
Business incubator, yeah.
Yeah. How is our Hmong community? Do we have enough people that we would qualify for that? I'm just asking, that's
Mayor,
all.
Do you want to do this? Do you want me to answer these questions? Or is this a public comment, forum? That's my question.
Well,
I'd rather have you answer it so that we don't have to keep doing this.
I just want to know, Eric, why.
I think I answered those questions previously in what I said.
But if the council didn't know and the people didn't know, then you didn't answer the question.
There are a lot of
Thank you.
things. There are a lot of things, as you know, council, that the staff does behind the scenes. Decisions that we make about things, policies that we enforce, management and administrative decisions that we make. We absolutely cannot bring every single thing to city council and the citizens. That is why you hire professional staff in the first place. At the end of the day, we all have kind of a different role to play, in this. And your role is, leaders of the community, elected body, to make decisions about, what direction we're going to go, the policies that we set, how we spend our money, how we prioritize the things we work on, and things like that. And the citizens ultimately, are going to provide feedback and ask questions and hold your feet to the fire, which is what they're doing tonight. That's what's great about local government. The staff has a role to play here. And it's managing these kinds of things because you don't have the time and the resources as part-time city council members to do that. That's why you hire professional staff. This is one of these circumstances where this is a professional decision. Now, you're free to criticize our professional judgment in this case. You may disagree with the choice that we made, but that is the choice and those are the reasons why. And I think it's completely appropriate that the staff would make those kinds of decisions.
I have a comment. I know a professional grant writer, 30 years experience. And this person said that they could have written this grant when with the verbiage and the wording, we did qualify. We would have qualified. And we could have got this building built free. $1.5 million was the top dollar from the bottom up and furnished if we would have known about it. We had 2.5 months to work on this. We know people in the community, in other places. This could have been accomplished. You can't accomplish it if you don't know anything.
Shirley, I have one comment about that. It's like, how... So that's kind of like a he said, she said kind of a thing. Yours too, though. It's like, how do we know this person knows?
Because they've written grants for... This person that I know was a Peace Corps volunteer, worked in Vanuatu Island, and wrote grants for the population of Vanuatu, Then went to Nevada, was the Girl Scout director for over the whole state of Nevada, Northern California, got a Girl Scout camp built from the ground up on a grant, okay? Then went to Forest Lake and was grant writing there. Got grants for the city, the police department, the fire department, okay? This person knows what they were doing, okay? That was my information and experienced person.
The thing we got here, it's too late. So
I know
we
that,
got to
but
quit
the
fussing
fact
over.
is we
But what
still
we need
have
to
to
do,
know
what
about
we need to
these
do
things.
is ask the administration if another grant comes available, get it in the group's hands and let them see what they can do with it. Doesn't mean it has to be submitted, but at least let you work with it. So there's where I think the mistake maybe was made. You didn't get a chance. That's where you're making yourself mad. Maybe after you got into it, 10 pages or 22 pages later, I don't know how long it would took, you'd have found out this isn't working right, and you'd have stopped. But at least you'd have had that knowledge, when you tried. So I think that's where the possibly this mistake was made, and hopefully we can correct that now tonight.
Mayor, I think we're veering into a discussion that we need to have at the
At
next
the
meeting of
meeting.
the community
Yeah.
group center. So,
Go ahead. Can I throw one comment in here, please?
Yes.
I know kind of what's going on. Her husband.
Please come to the podium, sorry.
Well, I speak pretty loud.
I know,
especially
but
if
we
get
need to
wet.
have it on the microphone.
Jim Van and Tracy, I'm real close to this because I sleep with it every night, okay? She has been on the phone 6 to 7 hours a day. 90% of what Eric just asked for, all the little details and stuff that we're supposed to have, she's been questioning several different towns that are in the same actions. All that stuff he asked for, 90% of it is in that book. She has been trying, they have been trying to put this stuff together. But when you run into a roadblock, it really sets you back.
I think like George.
Ken was working hard too. He was just asking questions, and he got his hand slapped.
Okay, I think we are veering into more than just the public comment portion of this. And I think we need to bring it forward. I mean, like George said, this one's done and over with. Apologies, whatever, people, we just need to move forward and learn from this. It's not going to make it a easy pill to swallow, but we're going to have to swallow, and like Janine said, we need to keep moving forward.
And I just want you to know that they are working. Ever since you guys said you didn't want to do it, you wanted the work group to take it over and do it, they've been working their butts off.
Yep, and I think now, if anything, what we've learned from this opportunity of the grant is maybe some of the information we need to make sure we have ready to go when the next opportunity arises. And it sounds like you've done a lot of that legwork. And maybe we need to get a little bit more specific with, the cost analysis and all that. But we can't really do that until we have the next meeting, so we can all get on the same page again, make sure that we understand we are all behind this center. But we do have to move forward with deciding what is the center going to entail. The first roadblock we had was if it was going to be new or old. We passed that roadblock. It was decided, okay, people wanted new, that's what they were going to be willing to donate for. So now that gives us the opportunity, we have to get specific with more plans. And that needs to occur at the committee level, not at a public comment level. So, I do appreciate, I think we all appreciate you guys coming forward here because we need to hear this stuff. But we need to move forward at a meeting where maybe things can get decided, not just this back and forth banter. We need to have it at a meeting where we can be productive with it.
and we as a council also have to let our city staff do their jobs.
Yep.
I don't want to be reviewing every grant opportunity. And the smaller grants are easier to write. We do grants at the hospital. The fire department does grants. The smaller grants are easier to do, but when you're talking 1.5 million or whatever, that is a lot more technical and difficult to get. Even once, if we would have applied for it, We don't know if we would have gotten it. Same with Pipestone. If they did get their application in, great for them, but they still don't know if they're going to get it. We thought for sure we were going to get that natural resource one, and then we ended up not getting it. Doesn't mean we don't keep trying for the grants, but we need to make sure we get our ducks in a row so it's easier to pull that trigger when a potential grant comes out. But I still would expect Jeff and Eric to do a lot of the legwork because, and maybe,
That's their job.
yep. But that's what we need to discuss at the meeting that Seth wants us to get set today, is for the next meeting.
We don't want you all to feel like we don't appreciate what you're doing, because we all appreciate what you're doing. So, with that, we're gonna move on.
Mayor, we do have one item under public comment. We had,
I know, we
there's,
got that.
okay.
Yep. So, Melissa and Sam, you wanna?
Do we both go up there at the same time?
No.
I'm asking.
You certainly may.
We're one.
I haven't seen some people up there yet, so I'm like, well, I'm trying to learn. You know, I'm a slow learner.
So ours is very simple. It's Melissa Sahlstrom,
Sam Sahlstrom.
and you guys all have a printout in front of you there of what we're bringing before it. It's basically just an appeal for a water bill or a utility bill that we received on this letter here, October 12th. And in the printout that you have in front of you, we have in bold is the replies that we got from the city, and the other typing is just kind of my narration of what happened. And so basically we purchased a property in November, 161 Union Street, as a project for our family to work on. And once we closed on it, we called to transfer the utilities into our name and make sure that there was not utilities, water and garbage and stuff turned on there. So I emailed Krista, and I have my email here, her reply to me that said there were utilities on there, and in order to disconnect them, they would need current water line repair payment to be paid off.
From
From the previous owner. So we did email the previous owner, and I have my email there. So, we don't expect you guys to make a decision tonight on this if you need time for it.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you could look at it and just kind of read through it.
Yeah, because in 3 minutes, we probably don't want to go through all this. But so anyway, we did talk to him, we texted him, and we called him, emailed him. That was the end. We never heard anything else about it. And in June of the following year, 2021, we were ready to test the water pipes in the house and see if there were leaks.
Have the water meter installed at that time.
Yep. So we had the meter installed, and no problem. I have listed here what we paid. We didn't have usage or garbage services.
So the entire year, we didn't have a water meter in there.
Yeah. Yep. And then October, we had a family move in, and they're happily living there. It's great. But then in October, we received a letter stating there was a past due amount of $925.49 due on this previous owner's bill, and that if it was not paid, it would be assessed to our taxes for $999.52. So we were like, oh my goodness. So we contacted the city again right away, and here on the next page you have the details of our emails back and forth. I made sure that the city had his phone number, email address, everything. But then we were like, well, what is the bill for? And the next few pages of emails are going back and forth to kind of figure out why is this really high bill? What is it for? We didn't, let's see, I think it was December 13th is when we finally did get, Krista had told us it was for delinquent utility bill charges. But to us, that still didn't mean, has the water been on in two people's names for a year? We just weren't sure. So then we did, check on with him, again, the previous owner, and he said, all my utilities are paid there. So I asked him if he could find us a canceled check just so that we had assurance that it was paid in full and everything was good to go. So then the final page that you have is what the other Krista with a K sent me, because I said we never received a bill. Can you please explain what this is for? We did go ahead and pay it in full because we didn't want to pay the $9.99. So I guess our question is, like, is it routine to bill other people's water bills to somebody else?
Right, so this is all previous water bills before we bought the house. If I want to collect money on one of your houses, if you guys sell it and you didn't pay me, for instance, I have to actually put a lien on that house.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they sell the house, then if my lawyer would have looked this up and he would have seen that, hey, there's a delinquent bill of $925. And I could have said to the homeowner, hey, you know what, you got this. We're going to take that off the top. You know, and I think you guys already kind of had a meeting about this. I think there, you know, so
I
anyways.
guess we're just asking as an appeal that maybe it could be relooked at. The last page on there is the email that Krista gave us, and it looks like there's maybe like a normal water bill in November, and then there's nothing until January, which is a $424 bill, which we didn't have the utilities turned on yet.
This is still with the
until
meter out of
June.
the house.
Yeah. And then there was nothing until April, May, June, July, August, September. And those were all anywhere from $50 to
I think
$80
those were all
bills.
charges on the delinquent bill from the previous owner.
Penalties. So if
But
this,
we didn't get notification of these either.
until October of
Until we seen
year,
this letter for
or 20.
$925. And
Yeah.
we're like, what is this? We bought a house, we didn't know anything about any of these bills.
Yeah.
And one of her things that she said, well, you got to notify us when you buy a house. Well, we notified her the very next month. It's in the email.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's
So-
kind of a dilemma.
Yeah, so that's our appeal. We don't expect an answer necessarily tonight, but I guess we'd appreciate an answer maybe soon.
We're done.
So we're done.
That means we
yeah,
can go
we did
now.
it. Thank you.
Anyways, so that's what it is for what it's
Thank
worth.
you for all that you do, because
Yeah.
we know it's a lot of work dealing with all these happy people. So any questions before we sit down, or?
Sit down. We're going to leave.
Oh yeah, before we go.
No, but I was gonna, Eric, can you give us like a background of this?
I'll give you a very brief background. There was some information that was given in your packet in terms of the bill, and unfortunately Krista is sick today, and the other Krista is also sick today, and Peggy is sick today, so you're getting the secondhand version of it from me, but I think I kind of understand it. The breakdown of the bill in the packet is that my understanding is the Salstroms purchased the property in November, and the water bill did not get transferred over into the Salstroms name right away. It should have been. Our understanding is that the previous owner did in fact pay his portion of the bill and then got his name taken off of it. There is a bill in January of 2021, which is after they purchased it, that included water, and it includes things like a disconnect fee. There's a $300 water line repair. The water line repair was from the previous, was when the previous owner owned it. However, the repair is a benefit to the property, and so that goes to the new homeowners as well. And so my understanding is that what happened is after that $400 or so wasn't paid at that time, then late fees continue to accrue every single month, because that's what our policy is. When you don't pay your bill, the late fee accrues every single month. And so until it's paid, and that's how it works. And so ultimately, per our policy, which is in section 3.1 of the code, section 16, says that anytime a water bill isn't paid, that it becomes a lien on the property. This is a different situation than you previously we had previously talked about when we took a few of those things off. Those are really associated with renters who failed to pay their bills because because we couldn't shut them off because of COVID, and then it created a big problem. This is a situation where there were some bills, the water line repair, which the previous owner had on a payment plan but wasn't complete with, plus, and then accrued late charges over time, for that bill not being paid. And if you want, I can have Krista, write something up that explains it a little bit better, because I may not be getting it completely right because I don't deal with this every day, but that's my understanding of it, is that it didn't get transferred over into the Sahlstrom's name until, sometime in the spring, like Mayish. And during that time, there was this bill that kept moving forward and kept getting late fees attached to it that they would be responsible for according to the terms of our city code.
So then, when they closed on their house, that person should have found it, or whoever does that research, right? Or not? I don't quite understand this stuff.
Ultimately, when you close on a house, or kind of like, when I came to town, I'll just tell you my personal experience. I came to town and I set up my water, at my new place, except that it was kind of a crazy first week because it was COVID, and I didn't get my water transferred over for the first 10 days. And so then the Likes, who I rent from, got a bill, and I ended up reimbursing them for the portion of the water that I used during that time period, at a rate. And so when you buy a house or you rent a property, it's your responsibility to transfer it into your name. And that didn't happen in this case for the Sahlstroms for 6 months.
But it actually,
We got email. We emailed that month in December.
That's my understanding.
No,
of
it's- we've got
circumstances.
emails.
To the city?
My
Absolute
understanding.
direct emails.
That's my understanding of the situation. Like I said, I'm getting the information from Krista through Krista. So if there's something I'm not understanding about this, I apologize. I'm just telling you that's what I was told. And so I do think it'd be worth, having them, talk about it maybe at the next city council meeting or something. But ultimately, that's my understanding of the situation.
So yeah, if you look back through that transcript, there's an email, December. We had them take the meter out of the house because we didn't want to pay a water bill for 10 months while we weren't.
And taking the meter out of the house does not absolve them of the charges that were already there.
But-
And that's part of the issue, is that there were fees that were there, and taking the meter out of the house doesn't mean that those fees weren't there, and not paying that bill accrued those late charges, and that's how that happened.
But
Now,
would we not notify them when they
we
email
ever get
the
a bill
city
on that?
saying?
well, as you can see,
My
when you
belief is
look
that
at
we
it,
did, but I honestly,
Yes.
I
she said that it could
I'm not the
be
best person to
changed
ask that
over
question.
until it was paid in full.
So if you guys are okay with that, are you okay with waiting until?
Yeah, you guys have to look at it. We
Like
understand
we
that.
said, we did.
You guys
pay
got a
it.
lot to do.
Yeah. Yep. So.
So I apologize. I'm giving you the best information that I've got, and unfortunately, we've got half our office sick.
So yeah, anyways, that was my only thing, is if we knew, I would have paid a $325 bill instead of a $925 bill.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you. We'll get back to you.
And ultimately, one more comment about that is that, it's been very clear that it's your policy that we not waive any fees, as a city staff. And so, we won't do that, and I feel phone calls myself. Sometimes they get escalated all the way to me. And ultimately, you have the authority. You can do that if you'd like to do that. But we as a staff, we don't want to do that because we think it's your policy that we, collect the city what's due.
Well, to me, it sounds like they weren't notified that bill was there. So we have to, as a city,
don't know.
we have to make sure that stuff quits slipping through the cracks.
There's a difference between someone saying I didn't receive it, and us not notifying them.
Well-
I guarantee you that both of those things can be true.
Yeah, we just need to,
I'm sure we
Tighten that up.
notified them.
we just
So
gotta tighten
we will-
that up.
So, yeah, sorry, we'll get back to
So
you when we.
I had one more thing too I wanted to ask. And this is kind of related but not related. But like when you work on a rental house and you want a temporary, I mean, like if you're building a new house, you need water. You got to do taping and mudding and whatever, you know. So I didn't know. There's no provision right now for like a temporary. We just want the water on for a month. You know what I mean? I don't know if there's something.
Yeah, there is. I think Shane.
Yeah. He's out.
I heard you. You can get construction water on a temporary basis for a home, can't you?
We have been, yeah.
Okay. Yes, you can do that.
Okay. Because usually I get, well, we have to inspect the property. Well, you can inspect the property, but we're working on it, you know? It's kind of a, you know, maybe that's just, Shane understands it, but sometimes
Yeah,
the
you
girls.
can get temporary construction water, yes.
We do the inspection, but then we do a re-inspection when it's ready to be occupied.
Okay. Anyways, have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll enjoy. I'm gonna watch it online. I'm gonna eat popcorn.
Good night, Sam.
Good night.
All right, Dee.
We're on the consent calendar.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the December 13th minutes, approve the municipal accounts payable without breakthrough beverage, approve the December 1st park board minutes, and approve the Tracy Relief Association minutes from December 4th.
First and second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Jones.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Shipman.
Yes.
Teets.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
No, pay me.
Somebody with them.
I'll make a motion to approve municipal accounts payable for breakthrough beverage.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Koopman.
Yes.
Randall.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mayor Corman.
Aye. Mayor, community consultation stuff, would you like to?
Well, I've had a couple things actually. I just want to remind the public that we have an open house tomorrow here at City Hall where people can meet with members of the park board and discuss and look at a couple ideas and layouts that have been drafted by some professionals for a long-term improvement plan for Central Park. And the committee is very excited about some of the ideas that have been set forth.
Time, what time is that?
5 to 7.
That's correct.
5 to 7. And then I just wanted to suggest that we schedule a date to get the community center work group together to discuss about some of the issues that were raised tonight and just kind of see where we're at. I think at one of the meetings of the foundation, the Southwest Initiative Fund, they said that we need to develop a plan of exactly what it is that we're trying to build, what needs is this building going to serve, and get some cost estimates so that we can get a fund goal established or apply to get this community center project approved as a project fund with the new Tracy Area Foundation. So I just think that, with the holidays and we are beyond, it's time to get together again and start working on that.
I know the banditry she's left, but we still have one, two members. Are there specific dates that would work or not work, or do we want to send out an email to get a couple dates from people?
Does it matter to you guys for dates?
I've not thought about it, so I better look at my calendar.
But
Any night but basketball.
That leaves
And
it on.
that's what, Tuesday and Thursday?
And Monday and Friday, so.
Wednesday's your only open night then.
My suggestion would be that you try to set a meeting tonight, and then if it becomes a problem, then we can always move it. It's going to take a little bit more logistics to, try to send out an email and decide.
January 19th is a Wednesday.
Right?
Yeah.
What time?
can I make
6:30.
a comment?
Yes.
We are waiting for some people.
You mind coming
Oh,
up if it's
sure.
going to be longer than just a second.
We are waiting for some people to get back to us on prices. I don't know, it's hard to know when they come across and give you this information. Do you want to have a meeting before the possibility of money? I mean, is there other things besides money that we can talk about, like services? I mean, if you want to do that, we can certainly do that, and that might take up plenty of time too.
I think we want to address, like, some of the things that would have been required for that last grant. I think we want to address those things to make sure we're on the right trail, so when opportunity arises, it's easier to pull that trigger, and it gives
Yeah.
Jeff and Eric
Yeah.
a little more understanding
Yeah.
of what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Now, I think we need to be open, my opinion, and maybe I should wait for the meeting, but I think we need to be open that there might be things we want to consider that we didn't think of when a grant comes out, saying,
Yeah.
well, geez, maybe we could include that.
Yeah.
So I don't want it black and white.
Yeah.
But I think we definitely need to have a meeting that we feel like we're all on the same page and we're moving forward.
Yeah, chances are, I mean, if there is another grant, it may not be written exactly the same way anyway.
No.
Not very many of them are
No, they're not.
are duplicates, but certainly we can discuss services and
Well, and even size. I mean, when you're talking getting costs,
Yeah.
well, part of the cost is, okay, the size, because what are we thinking of wanting to include in this?
Yep.
So I think we have enough to talk about.
Okay,
If the
sure.
meeting only lasts an hour, we'll do cartwheels coming
Sure.
out.
Somebody said Wednesdays would be maybe
19?
best, and I guess Wednesdays are usually okay for me.
5:30 on a Wednesday? 5 o'clock on a Wednesday? 5:30? Or I'm gonna say 6:30 on Thursday, the 20th.
I would caution you against the 20th because I think we're going to have some conflicts on the 20th from a city standpoint.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, five.
I could maybe, what about you
on
for
Wednesday
work?
doesn't work?
6 or 5:30. I mean, I'm trying to get it early so people that have other commitments with church would still be able to do that
Okay.
after our meeting.
Okay. Well, if we're talking about the 19th, if 5:30 was too early, is 6:30 better on the 19th? I'll just give up my choir rehearsal.
Oh, no, 5:30 works. You need practice, Seth.
I do. I do.
I mean, I can make a 5:30 work knowing it far enough in advance, unless something happens with the ER, but otherwise I can make 5:30 work.
I'm done selling booze by then, so.
Okay.
And then, are you talking the 19th?
Yeah,
All right.
that would work.
So what,
The
5:30?
19th.
The 19th at 5:30.
Okay.
At the library, right?
We can do it at the library, yeah.
Yep. Okay, good.
All right.
Look forward to it.
That problem solved.
Okay, we've got that. My next thing is I would like to know if with the council's approval, if about appointing Karen Krogh to the committee to replace Tony Peterson,
To get that back up to
to back up to the number that we had
before,
before.
yeah. I guess
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, Karen's been at a lot of the meetings, and
You should be up to speed.
oh, I'm sure.
I would like to make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
First and second. Roll call, please.
Tom,
Aye.
Randite,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Teagues,
Aye.
Koopman,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Mayor Coleman.
Aye.
Mayor, then the rest of the items are kind of your first, of the year organizational meeting. We do this every year. The first two items are mine, which is my appointment with council approval, which is the same as it is now. Krista and Diane for deputy administrator, and Krista for deputy administrator, and Diane for deputy city clerk. And so I just need a motion to approve those if you so wish.
I'll make a motion to approve the city administrator's appointments. Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Jones,
I got a question. Which ones are we doing? We're doing
first
Krista?
one.
The first,
Just-
first one?
Just-
Krista and Diane.
Just Krista and Diane.
Okay, okay.
Teagues,
Aye.
Koopman,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Towle,
Aye.
Randite,
Aye.
Mayor Coleman.
Aye.
The next two items are simply, again, status quo. You have to appoint me officially the city clerk, because technically I'm the clerk and the administrator. And Matt Gross is the, from Quanstrom Doring, as the city attorney. And those are, you have to appoint those, Mayor, with the city council approval.
I'll just,
So just, all I say is that I want.
Yeah, say
Yeah.
yes.
City clerk for Eric and the attorney Matt Gross. If you guys would approve my appointments.
I'll make a motion for the mayoral appointments.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion?
Yes. On the city clerk, is that the same as the administrator now? Because we were going to review that and discuss that in our emails. Am I on the wrong page on this, or what?
Technically, I'm the clerk and the administrator. The charter says that you may appoint a city administrator. You're not required to do it, but you are required to appoint a clerk, and so that's why you have to do this here. And you don't. And the charter assumes that the clerk and the administrator are the same person. So it's basically you're just doing it because it's the legal requirement.
I'm trying to recollect, Ron. that's why I'm looking
We
at
had
you.
a deal from, anyway, from over in the office there, that she had a form that we were supposed to look at and review.
Yeah,
That's
that's my annual review,
Yeah.
my annual performance appraisal. You've set that as at the next meeting on January 24th, and so that would be in preparation for that.
That's what that's about.
Yeah,
That's what that's about.
Well, that has nothing to do whether we rehire you back or not then, that annual review.
I have a contract, so you'd have to fire me if you wanted to, but it's not an issue of rehiring me back. It's an issue of
But your contract's due in March.
my contract, the way that is written, and as Matt has indicated to you, is a minimum 2-year contract, and then it continues after that. That's the discussion that we'd had previously. And so ultimately, your decision is not to hire me. Your decision would be if you don't want me to continue as the city administrator. But ultimately, you have to appoint a clerk. It's required in your charter, and it's required by Minnesota state law. And so,
Appointing the city clerk today is just that he's in his position right now.
yeah.
So he would be the city clerk.
Yep.
Be it this year or in January or in December next year, whatever.
Right.
If we ever decided we wanted to terminate his employment,
Sure.
we can do that.
That's right.
We can do it any time.
So we
There's
do not
no-
review in March then?
Yes,
Your agreement goes to March.
that's why
My-
we're doing it in
My
January.
agreement goes in perpetuity. It doesn't have an
Is that what we're doing next week?
Next
Yes.
week, yes.
Is his evaluation.
Yeah, next week is my performance evaluation, which we do on an annual basis. Last year you did it in March, but this year we're trying to get them all done at the first part of the year. In fact, our staff is doing the same thing, as a matter of fact. We talked about it last Friday.
He's
So,
like any other employee, Ron.
yeah,
For just cause, we can fire him anytime.
absolutely.
It doesn't just happen in March when it's
But
his
once we say,
anniversary.
once we approve this deputy clerk here, that means that he is for another year?
No,
No.
Just
No,
right
March.
now.
Just right now.
March.
While he's in the
Until
job, he
March.
will be
While
it.
he's in the job.
While he's in the job.
Until March.
That March really doesn't enter into it. We can fire him. This sounds awful, Eric.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
I don't mind.
He's like
This is every NFL coach in the country got fired yesterday, so
He's like
I don't think I'm
Mike
any different.
I'm just trying to make it more clear that we can fire him anytime for just
Absolutely, you
cause.
can. Yeah.
I understand all that, Jerry.
Okay.
I'm just talking about his contract. The old contract was for 2 years, correct? His agreement, the one I'm reading was 2 years.
The agreement is a minimum of 2 years.
It was a minimum to give us more reassurance that he wouldn't quit 3-month road, and if he did, he had to, there is things he had to do, or pay, or whatever. Or if we fired him in 3 months down the road, there is assurances and stuff like that. It was more done for assurance, because we had had such turnover in the role, and there was never anything we could sink our teeth in. They could quit and leave, and there's nothing we could do. We still couldn't do anything. We can't force, recourse. That's the good
Yeah,
word.
you can't force somebody to keep a job,
No.
obviously, but
No.
yeah.
But appointing him city clerk right now is just appointing him city clerk while he has his job.
That's correct.
If he would not have the job, he's not going to be the city clerk. We would have to reappoint. Does that make?
No, but that's okay. That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Landite,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Koopman,
No.
Cheeks,
Aye.
and Mayor Corman.
Aye.
The next item is your council appointments, Mayor, and so, leave that up to you guys to discuss. What you have in the parentheses here is the current member. So we wanted to put that on here for reference, but you can do whatever you wish.
Seth, would you mind continuing being the pro?
I certainly would, Mayor.
I'll make that motion.
Let's do them all at once.
You will just do them all at once.
Okay.
That's okay. So, community advisor, are you okay doing that still?
Did you guys have a meeting last year?
Then I think we should rotate.
Jeez, I won that spot then.
Jerry, are you okay on the planning commission?
I am, unless somebody else wants to be on it. I mean,
It's all you.
okay, I'll do it again. That's not a problem.
EDA, Dave.
I'll stay on there.
Okay, and Ron wants to get off, so.
I'm off, yeah.
So, will you do it, George?
Sure, I'd be glad to do that for Ron
Thank you.
and the city.
And hospital, Jared?
Yeah.
That's not a conflict of interest for you?
No, because we're not technically, the hospital is not owned by the city anymore. so it doesn't affect my employment.
Wheels Across the Prairie, South, are you okay with that?
I can do that again, thank you.
Thank you. And can we adopt a motion to adopt the Robert's rules? Can we do it at the same time, or do we have to do that separately?
I would do all the council appointments together, yeah.
Okay. Do we have an approval for the council appointments?
I'll make a motion to approve the council appointments.
First and second, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Yep.
Yes.
Shulman.
Yes.
Jones.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Landike.
Aye.
Teets.
Aye.
Mayor Turner.
Aye.
Now you want a motion to adopt Robert's Rules of Order for the order of business at council meetings? I'll make that motion.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Roll call.
Shulman.
Yes.
Teets.
Aye.
Landike.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Mayor Turner.
Yes.
Can we do Bollig so they can get going?
Pardon me?
Can we do the Bollig group so they can get going?
Yeah, I think that'd be fine. Do Bollig first.
Yep. Angela, you're up.
I'm up first. Start with the airport or the wellhead protection plan?
Either one.
You got to do them both, don't you?
I actually brought backup.
Are we that scary? You need backup?
No, we just got to bring the brains at the right time.
I gotta ask you to speak up though if you could.
Sure. I don't want to touch that. I'll probably knock it down.
Yeah, you talk so soft.
Yeah, that won't impact your.
Okay.
Except on the TV.
Well, I know it's been a couple of months that I've been here, but I'm Angela Holm. I'm with the Aviation Division for Bollig. Eric asked me, since I was going to be here anyway with a wellhead protection plan, to just touch base with you all on the airport projects. With the onset of winter, not a ton has changed, but I do have a couple of notes. I see it got included in your council packet, so you may not need a lot of explanation, but in general, the 4 projects that we kind of have going right now are the master plan, the AWAS, the driveway and parking lot, and the runway rehab. The master plan, that project, as you know, is essentially done and in FAA's hands, waiting for them to review it. I reached back to them to say, hey, where are we at? And the answer was, you're in line, and that was all I got. I did get some good news from FAA, which is through the CARES Act, they got money to hire staff to help with the backlog. So I'm hoping that will help move this along a little further. There's nothing that you need to do related to this. It's just a matter of me continuing to touch base with FAA and say, hey, where are you at? It's not impacting projects right now, so. The next project I wanted to mention was the AWAS. As you know, that was awarded to Dale Johnson. There are a couple of things that have held that up. We wanted to get started this fall, but the AWAS equipment that MnDOT buys to install at the airport wasn't ready. That was one of the first things. I talked to the NavAids division at MnDOT last week, and they told me that the manufacturers of the sensors and equipment are all behind schedule. And so that's why you didn't get the pallet of materials that you should have gotten by now. And so Dale couldn't do anything before the snow. The other piece of that is that Excel's portion of the work, which is putting the new transformer out by the new AWAS site and running a line back. They were going to charge a really, really high extra cost for doing it during the colder winter months, which would not fit the budget. So the work is delayed until spring. They also want their work order paid before they'll even schedule it. I don't know if that has happened. Yes? It has happened? Oh, good. Oh, good, good. Okay, so that means, at least last I heard from Excel, was they were planning on doing that work in April, mid-April. So I'll follow up with them again and see if that schedule changed at all.
You have any idea when that equipment is supposed to show up, or is that another one we're in line?
We're in line. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'll be continuing to touch base with John Dalton and Mike Hartel at MnDOT just to find out where we're at in the line. Unfortunately, they don't control it either. I somewhat suspect it's related to the other shortages that we're experiencing now with electronics and sensors like that. So we're good on that project otherwise. The driveway and parking lot, if you've been out to the airport recently, you would have seen the nice driveway and the nice parking area. It looks really good. Dunick did a great job. That is essentially good to go. The design grant, Kristen, I know she's not here today being sick. She and I corresponded last week, and I learned that the grant for the design has been fully reimbursed to the city now. The construction hasn't been completely reimbursed, but MnDOT expects to make one more payment to bring that even for you guys. Not sure exactly when, but I expect it'll be relatively soon. The last project was a runway rehab, and that was the one that FAA picked up the entire tab for through the CARES grant, or CARES Act. And that's another one where the grant came through so late that they couldn't really get started without potentially making the resulting work less. I'm running out of words, sorry. It would not be as a good product, okay? Because if you do it in the cold, it just isn't so good. So, other than that, that is really the 4 projects you have right now. There's no new projects planned at this time for the next year per your direction. So, is there any questions on anything at the airport then?
Is the master plan all done and just being implemented?
It's done and in FAA's hands. They may come back to us and say, we want you to change this and this and this, but
from our standpoint, it's done.
It is. There's no more bills to pay. There's no more reimbursements to get. It's really just FAA following through. They may make us make some changes, which we'll do, and then we'll resubmit it, and then hopefully we'll be able to just stamp it and say it's done.
Good.
Yeah, right. If there's no other questions, I'll move on to the wellhead protection plan. So also not in your packet, I wanted to, and I did bring some materials for you all. I know that, thank you. I know you know Bollig mostly from our airports work, but the municipal work that we do is actually the majority of our engineering. Aviation is really only 10 to 15% of what our company does. Today we're here to talk to you about your wellhead protection plan, which is currently in progress. This document's required by the Minnesota Department of Health and should be updated every 10 years. We're going to give you a short recap on what the plan is and how we're going to help you meet those requirements to protect the city's water supply.
Excuse me, you have to speak up just a little bit more if you could. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. The wellhead protection plan that Jonathan and Thomas are going to talk to you about today is we're going to talk to you about how we're going to help you meet those requirements of the Department of Health and how we're going to help you protect your city's water. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jonathan on your right and Thomas.
Thanks, Angela.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Again, my name's Jonathan Fleck. I'm a professional engineer that works with Bollig Engineering along with Angela. She does a lot of airport work. I do a lot of drinking water, a lot of municipal type work, and so that's why I'm here to share with you about the Wellhead Protection Plan. What you see on the placard here is just a big version of the one handout that we gave you. So you have what's on that map. Just seeing this set up, I'll primarily have you just looking at the 11 by 17 paper in front of you, so you don't have to try to see the picture over there. But so what I'd like to do with you is just quickly go through the handout that Angela passed out to you, the City Council, just agenda items. And so I'd like to just kind of explain what we're doing here, what is a wellhead protection plan, and why, most importantly, why does it matter to you, and what is it for? So a wellhead protection plan is a report required by Minnesota Department of Health that the city needs to have on file and update every 10 years. And what that report is it's essentially a document that describes how to protect the public water supply and other measures that the city is taking to ensure that that water has continued to be cared for. And so that's what a wellhead protection plan is. It's just a guiding document for the city that the Minnesota Department of Health requires you to have. And so a wellhead protection plan has quite a few parts to it, and not all of those are necessarily important for you to know about at this meeting, but we will have time to go through those in detail with you in the future. And so this is kind of a status update as well. So what's happened so far is the Department of Health has created a groundwater model for this city as part of part one of this plan. And that's, if you look on your map in front of you, you'll see there's a few lines. This yellow line here, you see that yellow circle there, and then right here, and then there's a purple circle a little bit closer. Inside that purple circle, there's a number 1, 2, and 3. Those two numbers are your municipal wells. It might not show up too clearly on there, we'll see. Inside the purple circle is where the city's wells are, is the short answer. So,
Can you?
Yeah.
No, the microphone.
Just grab the microphone.
The people on people watching on TV cannot hear you when you're standing over there.
I'm sorry.
That's
to
okay.
our online viewers.
With you if you want.
Okay, I'll try to stay over here. I'll trip out myself or something if I try to haul it around, I think. So essentially, the state, the Department of Health, has created a 3D model of where your water comes from underground. And the short answer of what their report and their efforts have determined is that, thanks Thomas, is that your community has a low vulnerability setting for contaminants to get into your groundwater. Very good news. That's exactly what a community wants to hear about their groundwater, where their public water comes from. It's low vulnerability. It's because your wells are deep and they're underneath a whole bunch of clay that's impermeable pretty much to anything getting through it. So it's a safe location. And so this report is simplified in a lot of ways because of that. A low vulnerability setting means that we just don't have to look for as many different things that could potentially contaminate the water. And looking for those things is what the state has asked us to do, is completing part 2 of this report. The state does all that modeling. They figure out where the water is coming from. But then for communities of your size, they require you to find a consultant, which is where our efforts come into play here. So we take what they've done and we create this plan to help you manage your groundwater. And through correspondence with you and with Eric and with Shane, the people that are managing it on a regular basis, we come up with this plan to help guide decisions for the city and to maintain the water quality. And so that's kind of what a well protection plan is. I'll continue going through this agenda onto number 3, unless you have any questions about anything I've discussed so far. It's a lot of information, I know, so I apologize for that.
How was this yellow area determined?
It's a great question. So it's based upon the modeling that the state has done, and that is a certain amount of, how to explain this? When you pump a well, you're pulling the water out of the aquifer, and that means that water is coming from somewhere else. And so that yellow line indicates the general vicinity for where the water underground is entering in the wells over a long period of time. That purple circle is the more recent groundwater that enters the well. So the closer you get to your wells, the sooner the water in that groundwater aquifer enters the well. So that yellow area is the general area which the water is pulled from that enters the well. Does that make sense?
So, there have been no concerns flagged for the location of the old dump that's just to the west of the water wells.
I believe that's correct, and that's inside city limits. That's that triangle that kind of extends out. Is that correct? That's where the old dump is. Is that right, Shane?
Yep. Just catches the corner of it, that line does.
Yeah, and see, that's one of the, if you were in a moderate or a highly vulnerable setting, for example, the last community I did this is in central Minnesota where there's a lot of sand. It's sand all the way down. And so that would have been a very significant concern. But because you have several hundred feet of clay above your aquifer where your water is drawn from, it's not a required potential contaminant source in the Department of Health's eyes, at least. And that's what this report and what our studies is, making sure that we follow their guidelines for what they say is a potential contaminant, and that's not one of them for this location. Any other questions on that, or general, what is this, what we're looking at all? I'll keep going. Number 3 on our agenda, the project requirements and goals. So what we're doing is we're putting together the final report. It's called Part 2. And is what that will do is we will eventually submit that to the state Department of Health, and they will review it and approve it. And then that will give you a guiding document for the next 10 years on what it looks like to manage your groundwater supply and how to protect it. And so we will give that to you at the end of this project. That is one of the deliverables for this. You'll have that report on file to be able to guide your staff and your community in protecting your groundwater. The other thing, and I have this on here now, it's Water Emergency Contingency Plan. And you actually have one. Shane provided one to us, I think it was earlier, was it last week, I believe?
Last week.
Yeah, and so I'll review that with Shane. It looks, off the initial conversation and review, it looks good, so that's great. That is something that I need to submit with the plan, and that contingency plan is a guiding document. Let's say you had a really bad storm, you lost power to both the wells, big snowstorm, or some scenario where you were required to try to provide water to your community in a different way. That document will guide your community, your fire department. It's kind of like a phone book with a list of who does what in that sort of scenario and what steps need to be taken and whatnot. And so that will also be submitted, and we'll take a look at that just to make sure it's up to date with the wellhead protection plan. It has to be included with that when we submit it to the Department of Health, so we need to make sure it's good too. So that's something that I'll do with Shane and Eric and other staff as well. And so, yeah, I think I've covered the first 4 items pretty well here. I'll go over the schedule and the next steps with you and just kind of outline what we've done so far and where we're at in this. So you go ahead and turn to the second page in the handout that you have. And so where we're at today is we've completed an investigation, an on-site investigation of your wellhead protection area, kind of that area in the yellow and even beyond that with that red outline that you see on your figure. And what we've done is we've looked at any potential contaminant sources within that area. And that essentially means we've looked at what wells are in your area. Those are the primary concern in the Minnesota Department of Health's eyes about what might contaminate your aquifer. And that makes sense. You have a lot of clay above that aquifer, so really the only way to get a contaminant into it would be through a well, an existing well. Or more likely an unused well or an old well that's no longer being serviced, and it might be being used for putting waste down, chemicals that somebody might not know what else to do with. Things like that is what the Department of Health is often most concerned with for a scenario like yours. And so we've completed that. That's the first line item on the schedule. First and second. We did the on-site one as well as the PCSI on the online databases for where we pull the wellhead and well reports from. And here we're here today to present this information to you. The Department of Health likes us to work with you as closely as necessary to make sure that you understand this report. It is an important report for your community, and we want to write it in such a way that it meets your expectations, but it also is practical and doesn't give you more to manage than is required by the Department of Health. And so we want to work with you through this process to make sure you're happy with the recommendations we're giving in it. And then we'll continue doing that in the following weeks with Eric and Shane and yourselves as well. What follows that is a review period by the Department of Health, and we'll just take a look at it with their staff. And after that, we will submit the report to local governments. And so we'll work with you to make sure that we can get that into the paper so that we can have a 60-day review period and a public hearing that will follow that, where we can receive comments from the public or other local government units.
How many well heads do we have?
You have 2 operating wells.
And how many just sitting there? Or none? Is there any dormant ones?
Well, that's one of the things we're looking at right now. There is an old well that we believe was sealed. We're looking for documents that can show us that it was sealed for sure. And it is probably something we need to look at more closely as we wrap up this report. In one way, having an old municipal well that isn't sealed is helpful because that gives us an action item that we can put into the report, something that says simply we're going to follow up to figure out if this well was sealed, what is the status of this old municipal well, and if we include that information in the report, the Department of Health has something called the Clean Water Fund that they can draw from to provide grant funds to seal that well, should we find out maybe it actually wasn't sealed up and we just missed it, or the information got skewed along the way. And so having that information in the report, if it's in the report, just like a lot of other grant opportunities that come before you, if it's in there, once it's accepted by the Department of Health, then should whatever scenario is found out, you'll be able to get grant funds. And a lot of those are 100% funds to seal wells. And so we're going to make sure we include that information in there, in the report, just to make sure that we're covering your bases and providing you the opportunity to get those that well sealed up by a grant fund if necessary.
So we have 2 working wells and then one that maybe is an old well.
Yeah.
Test well.
Huh?
It's a test well, you think?
Test well, yeah.
Okay.
From back when they put the wells there.
Oh, I see. Sure.
What I understood.
Yeah. So we're trying to find paperwork to see if that's was sealed properly. Ultimately, we might not find that paperwork depending on who did the testing and whatnot, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal if we don't put that information in the report, because then you wouldn't be able to receive grants to seal that well up. So we'll just put the information in there, and then as you implement the plan, once it's approved, it's not a big deal either way. So.
How deep are the wells?
I think about 260 feet, give or take a few feet.
Yep.
What method do you use to search for old abandoned wells?
So we did 2 things. The first thing we did is we did an online database research of well logs. So every time a well has drilled in Minnesota since, I think it was the early 70s, a well log was created for it. And that well log provided a location on a map. And those well logs can be used to locate potential contaminants. And so an active well or an inactive well is considered a potential contaminant by the Department of Health.
That only goes back to about 50 years then.
That's correct.
What about a farmstead that was abandoned in 1925 or whatever? Do those old wells, are they just too shallow to even be a concern, or what, how do you find those?
That's a great question. And there ultimately might be things that we don't catch, but we're doing our best with the resources we have to look for things like that. One of them is called Sanborn maps, and is what they were is they're old maps put together by municipalities back in the, Shane, do you remember? Have you seen those before? They're old, like I want to say 50s, even maybe before that. And they were for fire.
Careful.
I'm sorry. I had to play on the old guys team for hockey the few weeks, so I made the young guy cut off. So I'm feeling it too. So I apologize. But those are old maps that are showing old municipal well locations and a few other things. So we look at that. So that's kind of like a database search. And then what we also did is we did an on-site investigation where we sent a person that we work with a lot named Terry Bovey on these wellhead protection plans. He came out with Thomas and Shane, and they went and looked at your guys' wells and kind of checked out the area as well. So we did the online database collection, pulled as much information as publicly as available and what the Department of Health and other department agencies have on file, and then we showed up and looked around a little bit too.
Would it be helpful to look at old plat books and see where old farms used to be located, or?
It could be. There's a few things that this project, there might be some really old ones out there that we're not aware of. Ultimately, that's something that we would ask that the community continue to do. Within the project schedule for creating this plan, we can't necessarily guarantee we're going to find everything today, And so what is part of that wellhead protection plan is that the city staff, if they come upon documents or if they come upon sites where they think there might be an old well, that's something to report. And if we have that guidance in this report, you can get a grant for it. And so that's one of the action items that we'll include. So always be on the lookout for those things.
A lot of times them old wells, like you're thinking, Seth, are only 25 to 50 feet deep, and they're hand dug and
right,
not really much of an issue.
Right. Yeah. Any other questions on kind of the sources and how we pull those together? So I'll just get back to the schedule and wrap up here. So what we'll do is after that local government review, we have the public hearing. We make any changes, maybe from public comments that might suggest us to write things a little bit differently. And then we will submit the plan to MDH after that. And then they'll review it and approve it. And that will be taking place probably in early summer of this year. Our completion deadline for Department of Health is May 1st. So we will have all of our work and schedules pulled out in front of that to make sure that we can have that submitted on time for you. Any other questions about what is a wellhead protection plan, or what are we doing? It's kind of a unique thing, and we're happy to help and answer any questions you may have.
How much is this costing?
Angela is managing the contract on this one. Not a lot for how much time it takes us.
I don't remember the exact amount. I thought it was six.
It was right around 6,000.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We like to use these as an opportunity to show the communities we work in that we can do good municipal work. We're aware of the grants that are out there for municipal opportunities. They're numerous, they're varied, and they require a lot of planning on the front end. And that planning is something that that's our bread and butter. The communities we serve, we like to get on the front end, and this is a great way to demonstrate that this is a simple thing that we can do. We put a few words in this report, and it gives you the opportunity to pay for unsealed wells without any worry on your behalf. So those are the things we like to provide to our clients.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Mayor, in the interest of time, I'll say first of all the report's in the packet. And the only other thing I want to add is just that as a follow-up to presentation I gave a month or so ago, we're part of a program that's part of a grant through the Southwest Minnesota Arts Council to develop to have some meetings about a community artist in residence program. It's kind of modeled on what they did in Granite Falls. Those meetings are going to start, this month in collaboration with some folks in the community in the Tracy Fine Arts Council, as well as some of our city staff. It doesn't cost us anything. At this point, it's just kind of an exploratory set of meetings to see if there's something we want to do to promote beautification and economic development. So that's kind of a new thing. But I wanted to follow up on it just so that you and the public knew that was starting to take place. And that'll happen through July-ish time frame this year. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you got any. And it doesn't look like Dale is not here for his report, but he did, I think, submit something that's in your packet. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we can move on.
Do we have to approve the fire report, or that's just more of an informational?
No, it's just informational. Yeah.
Okay.
Ready for new business, Mayor? Okay, the first two items are resolutions we have to pass every year because of the work that we do with Dave Teagues and the mayor's significant others. So that's what these two items are for.
I'll make a,
David get first.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-2. Contract with city official Pam Corman.
I'll second that.
First and second, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Tell?
Aye.
Van Dyke.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Hoopman.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Teagues.
Aye.
I'll make a motion for 2022-3.
I'll second.
First and second, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Teagues.
Aye.
Hoopman.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Van Dyke.
Aye.
Tell.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
I'll make a motion for 2022-4.
As long as only nice things are written in the paper. Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Van Dyke.
Aye.
Teagues.
Aye.
Tell.
Aye.
Hoopman.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Jones.
Aye.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-1.
I'm still first on the list. I don't care how you approve
I'll
them.
second it.
First and second, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Jones.
Aye.
Hoopman.
Aye.
Van Dyke.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Tell.
Aye.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
Mayor, 2022-5 is just a one-year lease with the Masons to rent the space upstairs. It's a little more this year than it has been in the past because they also asked for some additional storage. So we worked out an agreement with them for $750 for the year. Previously it was $500 a year for space that we're not using for anything else. And so that's what this is.
Go ahead. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-5 for the one-year lease with the Masons.
Second.
First and second, yes, sir?
Yeah, I'd just like to comment that I'm glad that the Masons can use that space. I mean, they're a good group in town. I just kind of wish that, you know, the extra $250 for the extra office in the corner, I don't know, it just seems like I just encourage, and you maybe have already, just and look for someone to use that office. I mean, it just seems like there might be someone in town who maybe has builds you know, has an in-home business that, you know, for that amount of money, you'd think like that space, it'd be worth $100 or $200 a month for someone to rent. And I approve this or support this resolution, but I would just hope in the future we can kind of keep looking for someone, some software designer or someone working from home that's an awful nice office space that we're letting go for $20 a month.
That's true, although I will say that we couldn't even find a key for it, so I had to jimmy the lock with a screwdriver in order to get in the room because we weren't even sure what was in it. So I agree with you. I agree with you, Councilmember. We should be looking for folks. In general, my personal view is that we should do a better job of utilizing the space we have. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I don't think we do. It's one of the reasons why we, as I indicated to you before, we have applied for a grant to try to remodel some of the space on the other side of the building that we could potentially use with the EDA and the chamber and some other things like that. But point well taken. Thank you.
I made a motion.
Nope.
Second.
Nope. So roll call.
All right. Tell.
Aye.
Landay.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Teagues.
Aye.
Hoopman.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
So item 6 is a mea culpa on our part. So we had a miscommunication between Krista and Diane, and we had multiple files on the server for the fee schedule. And when you passed the fee schedule in December, there were some minor differences that were incorrect. So this is the correct fee schedule that we should have approved last month. Doesn't impact anything that we did, and we caught it. But that's what this is.
Is this one chunk of all of it basically for the cleanup day? Okay. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-6.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Teagues.
Aye.
Landay.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Hoopman.
Yes.
Tell.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
Mayor, the telework policy is basically us kind of responding to COVID. We've had people work at home at different times, and then the question has come up, well, who can work at home and who can't, and under what circumstances, and how does that work, and things like that. And it has become so common because of this, situation that we're in the pandemic that in talking to Peggy, that we felt that it was important we adopt a policy on, how do we handle this situation. And so that's essentially what this is, and it'll essentially be part of kind of the, the personnel manual. It's an extension of that, essentially. But it allows us to govern when and under what circumstances that can happen for folks. And also recognizes that for some people, if you're working in the public works crew, you're not going to be working at home, right? So you shouldn't be asking us that question. And so it outlines, certain circumstances where it's not going to happen as well. And so this allows us to be able to do that for folks.
One point of discussion or whatever that I'd like to clarify. We've already seen where we've had to close our city offices
Yep.
due to staffing, illness, and stuff like that.
Yes.
I guess people might be able to do their primary job at home, but I think people need to realize part of their job is also being present doing the jobs that people come here.
That's 100% accurate. One of the things that this policy makes clear is that if part of your job is interacting with the public in some way, because of that if you're sick, totally understandable, but working from home is not an acceptable alternative to I'm sick, and so therefore I'm going to work at home, and part of your job is working with the public. So that's part of the consideration in terms of this policy too, and so Krista Listel, for example, is sick today also. She doesn't work with the public directly most of the time. The state doesn't even, she's not even allowed to take transactions. She could do some limited stuff. So most of her job is not interacting with the public, so it might make sense for somebody like her. Jeff works at home some. Diane has worked at home, some at different times. And so it works for some people and not for others. And this allows us to clarify when and who, can do that to address those exact situations you're describing. Yes.
Because that's concerning, because a lot of people are wanting to be working from home, but that's not necessarily what's best for businesses.
That's correct. If your job is to be here, we want you to be here. If that's part of your job description, you need to be here.
Even if it's to be available to the public. I wouldn't want Jeff working 100% of his time at home, because I think he needs to be involved in the community and available.
And I generally...
That's where it's all left up to the manager.
Ultimately,
or the
yes.
supervisor or
That's
whatever.
correct, yeah.
But that still comes through you.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it allows us to provide some flexibility to allow it to do it. So, and I'll give you, situations. Obviously, at one point in the early part of the pandemic, we had a fair amount of people, trying to work at home as much as they could. But you might have a situation where you're not sick yourself, but you might be quarantined for some reason or another. And so it might make sense to allow you to work from home under those kinds of circumstances if you have the right kind of job for that. We've had folks in all of our departments that have been quarantined and or been ill. I'm trying not to be too specific because of, privacy regulations, but not surprisingly, we've had people out for those reasons, and in some cases it could work, in other cases it couldn't. And it also depends on how the person is feeling and whether or not it makes sense. And, this allows us to actually specifically say if your job is to be here, then you're going to be here. And if you have to be home because you're sick or because you're quarantined, well, take sick time for that. But that doesn't mean you're working from home and continue to accrue sick time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I remember it does state in there that if you stay home because even if it's a sick child, that cannot be part of the reason why you're working from home.
You need to take sick time for
Yes.
that. If you've got a sick child and you need to be home because of that, you can take sick time for that. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Eric, excuse me. Eric, how many staff was in that office when we closed it?
We had one today.
And then Friday?
None in the afternoon, one in the morning.
What can we do to change that?
I don't know, cure for COVID, I guess.
I mean, when it's illness.
That's what this is about, candidly.
It was interesting because I come in Friday to get something for our trucks. And Krista come out, she said, we're closing at noon, so you aren't going to make it. She didn't point, but we had 15 minutes and it takes quite a while to do each thing. So she suggested I go someplace else. But I go in that other place, it was Marshall, and they have two people working there. Obviously nobody was sick, but they just zing, zing, zing right through. It didn't take very long.
Yeah,
For
normally.
anybody, so I don't know why it takes our staff. Is it the computer? Is it still not knowing everything, how it has to be done?
I don't know that I'm not sure what your perspective is on that. I don't feel that, generally speaking, there are times when people have to wait. There's no doubt about that. But, a lot of it is waiting on, it depends on the person's, what they're asking about. And I can't comment on what other people are doing, because I don't know what kind of transactions they're doing.
I didn't know what they were doing either. One person just wanted to change his address, and they had to wait for the one person to do it.
And that's the circumstances we're in. I mean, on Friday, I can tell you we only had one person working the counter in the morning. We only had one person today, which means you can only handle one at a time. Normally, we have more than one person that can handle that. So if you had something really simple, we can handle that. But that hasn't been true for the last couple of days because of this unusual circumstance. And this is just the part where we kind of have to ask the public for a little bit of understanding and grace because we're kind of stuck here. We're all trying to protect ourselves from, what's happening, with COVID in the community. And at the end of the day, we've been very clear. I just sent out a memo this last week to the department heads because, the CDC regulations keep changing in terms of how long you quarantine and who can and what circumstances. And so we keep very close tabs on that. And it changed again. And I basically said, look, if you're sick, you need to stay home, which is something I said, almost 2 years ago now when I first got here. You must stay home. We don't know if you've got a cough or sore throat or head congestion, you don't know if it's the flu. Is it a common cold? Is it RSV? Is it COVID? We don't know that, right? And so we want to make sure that when people are sick that they stay home. And so what happens is that people are sick, they stay home. And you know, that is the guidance from the CDC and the Minnesota Department of Public Health. And so we're stuck having to deal with it, and has service impacts on our community. You know, if we have police officers that are out, or firefighters that are out, or office staff, or public works crew, the liquor store, God forbid the liquor store closed down.
Have we been putting signage up? If we're short-staffed, to say, please be patient, we're short-staffed, that kind of thing.
There's something on the door.
Have we cross-trained the staff over here yet? I know you talked about it.
Well, there are 3 people over there that can do all of the things that we need to do. In order to do driver's licenses and tabs, you have to have the state go through the state training, and it's the kind of thing that takes, you know, weeks and months. And they just redid the software a year ago. So Diane used to be able to do it, but then they changed the software, and now Diane is not trained, you know, on the new software. So we could get more people on that, honestly. You know, from our perspective, 3, when we're manning 1 to 2 people at that workstation most of the time, seemed like it was enough. So yeah, I think we've got enough people cross-trained under normal circumstances, probably not under COVID circumstances. I do think that we need to have backups for a lot of the things that we don't have backups for. You know, we're seeing some of that now with, you know, we had an employee that resigned in the PD, and so now we're having to catch up on that. So we're going to train some backups to do some of that work. You know, we have a wastewater operator who is moving out of state, you know, for family reasons, and we have to have a requirement for a certain operator's license to operate our plant. And if we don't have that person on staff, we have to hire somebody to do it. That's the legal requirement. So Shane's going to go out and get his appropriate certifications in order to make so we have a backup. But we should always have a backup for each one of those things. We don't always catch it all the time, but we're doing the best we can. But this situation is just an unprecedented situation. Health crisis, I guess you could say.
You mentioned Shane is going to do what he needs to. Will he keep that certification then until the
Yeah,
end
he'd
of
have to
time?
renew it on a regular basis, but once you have it, you know, as long as you continue to use it and renew it, yeah.
Technically, he can be our backup.
Yes, right. Because then if we lose somebody,
Yeah.
then we have a backup, so we don't have to go hire somebody else. And so there's a lot of situations like that we're going to have to find, because we have 3 full-time openings right now, and none of them were unhappy. They just left for different reasons. They're moving out of the city, or you know, whatever the case might be. And so you know, this staffing issue is front and foremost to us right now. So that's what this is about. This is really creating some parameters so that we can define this, you know, in this kind of weird time that we live in.
We made a motion on this guy yet?
No.
Nope.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-7.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Landay.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Teagues.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Hootman.
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
Number 8 is a routine item. Again, we have to get a grant every year for maintenance and operations from MnDOT, and it's up, and so you have to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-8.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Tao.
Aye.
Hootman.
Yes.
Teagues.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Landay.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
Thank you, Council. Number 9 is we received a $500 donation that Jeff went out and solicited for our career fairs to help us pay for some of the expenses, and so you have to vote to accept that donation as well, you know, which is what our practice has been anytime we get any money from the outside like this.
I'll make that a motion. For 22-9, I guess.
-9, yep.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? Roll call.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Jones.
Aye.
Landite.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Bootman.
Yes.
Teagues.
Aye.
Mayor Corbin.
Aye.
10, council is also a routine item that we do every year. We have to approve this through our liability coverage waiver form, the League of Minnesota Cities.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2022-10.
Second.
Any further discussion on that one? Roll call, please.
Landite.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Schmidt. Bootman.
Yes.
Teagues.
Aye.
Mayor Corbin.
Aye.
This last item, Mayor and City Council, is a resolution approving a gambling permit. I think we determined that this is pull tabs at the caboose, ultimately is what this is. No? It's not pull tabs?
It's a raffle, I think.
It's a raffle.
Got to be a raffle.
It's a raffle.
Because the pull tabs go through Curry, Town and Country.
Okay, so this is for a raffle.
That must be for some raffle. Is
A
there
raffle that's
what's
happening.
what event's going on out there soon that they'd have a raffle?
Application here.
We're gonna approve it.
Well,
Yeah.
Nice to know.
it'd be kind of nice to know what we're approving for. What the heck is Great Divide? Is it Dave and Pear's charity donation?
Yeah, it's not, it's actually doesn't say on the application.
You don't know either, Per? Oh,
So we're gonna approve something we don't know about. Okay.
When is it for?
This is all we received. It was just the application for the license, and that's it.
Is there a date of the event at all or
Yep,
anything?
it gives a date, February 12th of 2022, and it's going to be held at the Caboose, and it's a raffle. It indicates that.
So it's not like the ducks or the pheasants?
Pheasants Forever, it could be, something like that.
I don't think that's.
Oh yeah, as long as it's a raffle and that.
It is a raffle on February 12th
Okay.
at the Caboose.
I'll make a motion to approve 2022-11.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
well, I just got one little thing there. I just
What?
popped into my head. Next time we have this, dig into it a little bit more so we know what we're doing.
Yep,
Yeah, we
I
should.
sure will.
All right, I figured you would, but I had to get my 2 cents in there.
Roll call.
Jones.
Aye.
Landite.
Aye.
Bootman.
No.
Teagues.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Tao.
Aye.
Mayor Corbin.
Aye.
Last item we have is just a closed meeting.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting?
I'll make a motion to close the regular meeting and open the closed meeting.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
So what do we need to do here to record this?
Oh, in a small town, you don't.
Yeah, we.
So just leave it running?
Well, I know, we'll stop it and then restart it so that they're two separate.
Okay, you'll do that.